So this is my end of the year progress video, and I'm going to see if I actually lived up to the Knitwit name and mastered knitting. The first skill I really mastered was casting on. It was a pretty straightforward skill, as you can see, that just comprised of putting a knot straight onto the needle and putting more stitches onto it so that in the rows to come you could do knit and purl stitches. I would say from the beginning I had mastered this skill and I was a nitwit in terms of casting on, and I still am to this day. Next is the more complicated stitches. This is the knit stitch, and I'm most definitely not a nitwit in terms of the knit stitch, just because I don't have the focus or the gripping to really master this skill. I often make mistakes and have to go back and redo them. And the same thing goes for the purl stitch. I always mess up because I lose a needle or I'm just not paying close enough attention to what I'm doing. But overall, I have improved a lot from my very first project. As you can see right here, this is my soap sack, and the knitting is very uniform and nice compared to the washcloth, which was my first project, which had a lot of holes and mess ups. Moving on to binding off, this was my absolute worst skill. I am not a nitwit at all. I think I make the stitches too tight so I can't get one over the other to take off the needle, so that just leads to a huge disaster. I need so much work on this, but I have improved drastically from my very first washcloth that I made. As you can see coming up, the borders are much more uniform and closed off and smooth compared to the washcloth, where I literally lost half of the stitches and it's just a bunch of loose ends and very sloppy and messy. With the soap sack, I also had to sew the sides and the bottom together. This isn't really a knitting skill, but I have mastered it, and I'm a nitwit in sewing two sides together, so I'm really proud of that. Another skill I really mastered right from the beginning was threading the loose ends through, which is just taking the tail that you made when you cast it on and putting it back into your work so you can't even tell that it's there. As you can see, when I cut off the yarn, you can't even tell that I've threaded a loose end through, which really proves that I'm a nitwit in terms of threading loose ends. Now I'm just going to do a comparison of my work from the beginning to the end. This is my very first washcloth, which is really messy. And we move on to my second work, which was just practicing the knit and purl stitches, which is still a little bit sloppy, but it's definitely a huge improvement from the last time. And then moving on to my soap sack, it is very neat and uniform, and it just looks so amazing. Now it is time to ask the question, have I become a nitwit? I really don't think so, just because I tend to make mistakes and have to start over in some of the things that I do. But I've definitely moved down the path towards becoming a nitwit. I just need a lot more practice, dedication, and focus while I'm knitting, and I believe that in no time I will be a nitwit.